Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. During last night's address, President Duterte appealed to the public not to focus too much on alleged corruption in the government's vaccine procurement strategy. To tell us more about this, we have Maricel Halili reporting live from Mandaluyong. Maricel, good morning. The Chief Executive ordered Secretary Galvez to follow his vaccination game plan, but apparently without regard to the ongoing investigation by Congress into this. Just to provide additional context, what exactly do we now know about the government's game plan?
Good morning, Charles. So far, what we know is that vaccine czar Galvez has already negotiated with the 7 vaccine manufacturers, and according to him, it's in the last phase of negotiation and it's going pretty well. We expect some doses from Pfizer to be coming in the country by February. It might come first before Sinovac of China, but of course one of our priorities is Sinovac because it's readily available in the first quarter of this year for the Philippines, as promised by the Chinese government, especially after their foreign minister visited the country and had a dialogue with President Duterte over the weekend. Foreign Minister Wang Yi promised the president that the Chinese government is willing to donate approximately 500,000 doses of vaccine to the Philippines, which will help, of course, our frontliners.
All right, but does this now mean that the government will push through with actually procuring Sinovac shots despite some objections from lawmakers?
Yes, you're right, Charles. The president, during his speech last night, ordered Secretary Galvez to push through with their initial plan and ignore what the critics are saying. He even teased some of the lawmakers, saying that look what your Pfizer status right now, following the reports that there are about 20 plus individuals who died in Norway because of apparently after being vaccinated, but by Pfizer or with Pfizer. But of course, it's not yet conclusive whether the vaccine caused the death of these individuals in Norway.
Right, on now to some non-disclosure agreements. The president defended his cabinet's refusal to disclose vaccine prices. He said this is actually an industry practice. But then why were other countries like Malaysia able to publicly disclose the prices of the vaccines that they procured? Of course, there's the NDA that we have to consider, but then what is the underlying policy here?
Yes, Charles. If we base it from the speech of the president, yes, you're right. It's a practice in the industry, according to the president. But of course, our main priority is not to violate the non-disclosure agreement, especially we have a good relationship going on with the Chinese government. Of course, Secretary Galvez doesn't want to offend the Chinese government, especially after their promise that aside from purchasing some doses of Sinovac, they are going to donate also doses of anti-COVID vaccine, which will be a huge help for the country. Of course, the national government wants to maintain good relationship with the Chinese government. So of course, they don't want to offend, especially after any agreement. And of course, there's the non-disclosure clause.
Right, so it's both a legal obligation and a foreign policy. But then amid all of this, there's the fear of vaccine-related corruption, of course, because of the refusal to disclose the figures. But then the president said there's virtually no way for officials such as Secretary Galvez to misappropriate any funds for vaccination. What was the president's reason behind this conclusion?
Yes, you're right, Charles. President Duterte and Secretary Galvez emphasized last night that they are not holding any cash or funds which are allocated for the vaccines. President Duterte explained that we asked for loans from the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank, of course, and these loans will be used to purchase vaccines for COVID-19. But of course, it will not pass through the hands of those government officials that are in charge in purchasing the vaccines. What will happen is that after the national government ordered doses of the anti-COVID vaccine, those vaccine manufacturers will go directly to the ADB or the World Bank to get their payment, which is actually considered as loan of the Philippine government. So the President and Secretary Galvez emphasized last night that they don't hold any of these funds. The manufacturers will go directly to the ADB and World Bank to get the payment for the purchasing of COVID-19 vaccines.
Right, so no middleman, I suppose. That is reassuring. But then the president did mention, in relation to the apparent preference for Sinovac, that 29 people have died in Norway after receiving Pfizer vaccines. We also reported this recently, but has this been conclusively proven that these people actually died due to the vaccines? What do we know so far?
If we base it from the statement of Malacanang and some medical experts from the health department, no, it's not yet conclusive, Charles. During the press briefing of presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, they did mention that investigation of the true cause of the death of these 29 individuals from Norway, or particularly these senior citizens from Norway, must be investigated. They have to wait for the result before giving statement about it. Because if we compare it in the operation in big countries like US, UK, and Canada, they also use the same brand of vaccine, but they don't record or they don't have any record of death so far due to the vaccine. So they have to wait for the result of the investigation to know if there are other circumstances that happened in Norway, which actually caused the death of these senior citizens.
Right, so much for vaccines and so much for Norway, at least for now. But then, Mased, the president listed off local government officials who were placed under preventive suspension due to allegations of corruption. This involves the funds for the social amelioration. What will now happen to these officials moving forward?
President Duterte last night read the names of these barangay officials who were allegedly involved in corruption regarding the distribution of the social amelioration fund. He actually requested the ombudsman to dismiss these officials if proven guilty. He doesn't want these officials to be back to government service if proven guilty of corruption. This is, of course, part of his effort to clean the government.
Right, the president also mentioned that he wouldn't allow any company to operate with a franchise before they settle their obligations. Would the president happen to be referring to a certain ABS-CBN that has a pending bill to be given a fresh franchise?
Yes, Charles. We all know that the franchise issue is connected in ABS-CBN if we base it on the recent history. But to be categorical about it, the president did not mention directly ABS-CBN in his talk to the public last night. We even texted presidential spokesperson Harry Roque through our group chat with the Malacanang reporters to clarify whether the president was referring to ABS-CBN. But Secretary Roque said that we can make our own conclusions. So there is no clear answer so far.
All right, were there any other salient points in President Duterte's address that we need to emphasize?
Yes, Charles, last night President Duterte expressed his condolences to the families of the victims of the helicopter crash or the plane crash in Bukidnon recently. He mentioned that he wanted to visit the victims of the crash, but he was informed that their bodies were already sent to the families. And so he decided not to push through with a visit in Bukidnon. In any case, he assured the families of these victims that they won't be taken for granted and they will be given assistance that they might be needed.
Thank you for that, Maricel. That was Maricel Halili reporting live from Mandaluyong. UP College of Medicine professor and infectious disease expert Lulu Bravo says frontliners can boost vaccine confidence by getting the shots first. In an interview with 1PH's Sa Totoo Lang, Dr. Bravo says public confidence in vaccines is important for any mass vaccination campaign to succeed. But Bravo says there shouldn't be any problems convincing public health experts to get inoculated first.
Nung nag-survey ang mga doktor, alam mo ba kung sino ang may pinakamataas na kumpiyansa sa bakuna ay yung mga espesyalista sa infectious disease, sa mga pediatrician, yung mga talagang nagbabakuna, yung may mga kaalaman talaga tungkol sa pagbabakuna, yun ang may mataas na kumpiyansa.
Bravo added that there's no way to compare the efficacy of the different vaccines because manufacturers did not conduct similar clinical trials.
Hindi siya madali na sabihin na porket ito ang ginawa ng Moderna, ang Pfizer, ganyan din ang ginawa dun sa Sinovac. Magkakaibang mga clinical trial, maaring iba-iba ang proseso na ginawa. So hindi ka pwedeng mag-compare. Kumbaga, sa kasabihan, you can't compare apples and oranges kung magkaiba ang kanilang procedure ng paggawa ng clinical trial.
Defense Secretary Delphine Lorenzana justifies the termination of the accord prohibiting state forces from entering UP campuses. In a statement, Lorenzana said the agreement between the two parties had become obsolete, explaining that times have changed since the agreement was signed 3 years after martial law ended. Without offering proof, the Defense Secretary claimed that UP has become the breeding ground of tagged enemies of the state who recruit students to join their ranks and fight against the government. Students of the university are crying foul against the move, saying they have long been targets of red tagging. Vice President and UP alumna Lenny Robredo also condemned the DND's move. Robredo said it goes against the principles of democracy and sends the message that everything is fair game under the Duterte administration. The VP also noted that scrapping the accord is a symbolic gesture designed to sow fear and discourage criticism. UP President Danilo Concepcion expressed grave concern over the termination of the UP-DND accord. In a letter addressed to Lorenzana, Concepcion described the scrapping of the agreement as unnecessary and unwarranted. The UP President adds that the move may result in worsening rather than improving the relations between the two institutions. Concepcion also said that the university was not consulted prior to the accord's termination. He now urges Lorenzana to reconsider and revoke the abrogation, requesting that they discuss the concerns raised by the Secretary. And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us later at 1 p.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. We are One News.